Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the old-time rock and roll event in which the Satyr musician and the war goat are added to the game. So let's get into that. Servers have been pretty much down all day. I'm actually recording this after midnight, but let's go over to the Satyr musician here, if I can talk. On top of that, I even have a sore throat. Just got back from like Hurricane Sandy too. If you're wondering why I've been uploading for the past few days, yeah, no electricity, no internet for like the whole weekend, and it just came back on this morning. But anyways, he has this Sonata ability. It is basically just like Druid has the same mana cost too, but instead of doing the split damage, it still does damage to two enemies at about the same amount of damage of that of Druid. But it instead silences them instead of doing the split damage, which overall Satyr Musician is better, but of course Druid works better with things like Valkyrie, so Druid for the most part might still be better just since he can be used in Soul Farm. But as far as the strength of Satyr Musician, the fact that it has a double silence is pretty strong. It's the only troop in the entire game right now that can silence multiple other than the silent one. So, very useful in that regard, now that there's actually another decent silencing troop in the game. And he also has immune to silence, and the rest of his traits don't really do too much. Of course, you'd probably want to use him in an all-wild folk team or something along those lines, especially since Pan's Veil already has him in it. And for the... also, one other thing. Brown... Yellow. There are so many good troops that use brown yellow trait stones. I might need to do a whole video just on that. But yeah, Gorgotha, the Great Maul, Dust Devil, Goblin, Gobtromper, there's even more. I just can't, there's so many of them I can't even think of them off the top of my head right here. But anyways, next up is the War Goat. It is kind of like the Dust Devil, except instead of having Empowered, it has Impervious. It does have a 3 lower mana cost, only 7 instead of 10. And it destroys a row instead of doing 5 damage to all enemies. But similar to Dust Devil, it has to knock the first enemy to the back, which is exactly what Dust Devil does, except it destroys a row instead of the damage, and does it for a lower mana cost. So you get 1 green surge on a +1 green banner, such as the Pan's Veil banner, for instance, and you just got this thing up, and you'll be able to cast it pretty much right away. It'll only take you a turn. And it does have Impervious. This is a common, the War Goat, and it is currently the most viable common, I would say, because there is the Dwarven Miner, which also has Impervious as a common, but you would never need to use Dwarven Miner due to how weak it is. But War Goat, I could see people actually using War Goat just because of how much utility being able to destroy a row, as well as just knocking the entire enemy team out of order, can actually work. Also, I once spoiled this like almost like a month or two back. I was wondering why this ability said butt, but now it makes sense. It's headbutt, but just when it was in the files and just said butt, that seemed so weird. But now with context, it makes sense. But yeah, I'd be okay with beast teams since it does have the bond. Of course, Impervious is the main thing that actually makes this troop fairly decent. And since it does give pure green trait stones, you can do something like upgrade the Archer class completely this week. Anyways, let me give out the redeem code for today. CYKT HECSSC, and of course that gives the normal reward of 2 treasure maps, 1 gem key, 200 souls, and 2,500 gold. One thing to note to the Xbox players who just got redeem codes: that redeem code does not work for you guys. I talked to the developers and they said the redeem codes are still going to be cross-platform. It's weird. They gave you guys the ability to use redeem codes, but they don't think they're actually going to be giving you any redeem codes yet. The main reason for this is because PS4 doesn't currently have accessibility to redeem codes. So as soon as PS4 gets them, they'll start probably handing out redeem codes that you guys can claim. I know I'll be doing at least once a week whenever they get it out to PS4. I'll be doing at least 1 video a week going over the new troops that consoles get. And I'll still be doing that up towards, even right now, like consoles, you guys just got Lady Ornariel, Salvani Mora, and the Thorn Knight, and I'll be doing a video on that as well. Anyways, let me go over to Pan's Veil. we do have enough troops here that I will be doing a brief overview of the kingdom real quick. Blade Dancer, really, really good against anything that has high armor. It has a 2-to-1 ratio. Really good if you're fighting players that are higher than you. Also really good with anything that does physical damage, as you're going to be reducing it out quite a bit with the 2-to-1 ratio that it does based on all the enemy armor. Normally, you'd only use Blade Dancer in the very first slot, second slot at the absolute furthest back. The main reason for this is his ability gets exponentially worse as the battle goes, and he's kind of a troop that you would only really need to cast twice, and you just used all of his utility up, and then he becomes pretty useless. Buddy Nog consoles, you guys just got this one not too long ago as well. It is a hard knight counter, really good early game, falls off late game. The main reason being there's aren't really any knight teams that work in late game, mostly because knight team synergy tends to give mostly just armors, and most knights have very high armors but low HP, and they're really receptible to just being rolled by true damage. But if you needed a counter to knights, Bunny Nog is definitely it. It's the strongest knight counter in the entire game. Is also the only troop in the entire game that has 5 times skull damage to a specific thing. So that's also interesting. Elwyn, arguably the worst kingdom epic in the entire game. He was buffed slightly a couple patches ago, but he's still completely useless in my opinion. Never ever use him. There isn't really a single instance I could ever think of in which he would be viable compared to a different troop. He's just not needed at the moment. Anyways, moving on. He also only has a 1-to-1 ratio, which is absolutely abysmal compared to all the troops getting 2 times and 3 times ratios now. Vanessa, fairly decent, really good against troops that have high base attack or just gain attack buffs overall, deals damage to an enemy based on their attack, and then gains a bunch of life. If you happen to spend all the trait stones to get her up, she does have Empowered. She even has Magic Link with Empowered. If I'm not mistaken, she's the only troop in the entire game that has both Magic Link for her color as well as Empowered, so really, really easy to get her ability up. Plus, she even has immunity to silence, so she can never actually get her ability stopped. She can only get it drained, which with how low it already is, that's not going to really be too big a deal for her, and she can really just cast spam like crazy. Will end up becoming actually fairly tanky, as well as being able to take out anything that does a lot of attack. Nymph has pretty good value for only 6 mana. Late game, you don't see her much. Early game, really, really good, since she's a really hard skull counter for very cheap. She's only a rare too. For 6 mana, she can entangle an enemy and then destroys a bunch of armor from them. So very useful, especially if you're using physical damage and other stuff like that. There aren't really any good Fey synergies for it as of currently, but as far as its utility, just for the entangle, it's really good. If I'm not mistaken, it's the cheapest entangle cast in the entire game as well. The Satyr, similar to a goblin, except not as good. Deals damage to the last enemy and then gains an extra turn. Of course, it can't aim like the goblin. It can only attack the last enemy. I think it only does like a couple damage more than goblin, and the utility of being able to aim at any is much better than the extra few damage on it. Normally, you wouldn't really need this troop at all. You would just use goblin instead in pretty much every single instance. We already went over that. Siren, probably the best troop from Pansville. The main reason for this is, one, she has Empowered. The other one being she can create gems on the very first turn. This is really good. She creates 9 gems. It's completely random. It'll choose a random one from whatever target you end up targeting. Of course, if they only have 1 mana, it'll make that mana, or else it'll be completely random based on whatever 2 or 3 colors your target has that you hit from the enemy team. But those 9 gems are going to be really good for triggering anything on your team that triggers an ability or a trait, I mean, whenever they do 4 times or higher matches. And it can really get teams going. I also used her quite a bit in exploring because she can do a lot of damage off the very first turn, as well as feed, or hopefully feed, mana. So really good for quick battles. Sylvasi. A fairly average troop. It steals attack from an enemy and then transforms all blues to purples. There aren't really too many viable teams, I would say, for it. You could, of course, just put it with something like a Bone Dragon, and then you'd be able to feed the Bone Dragon all those purples from the convert. That's pretty much one of the only few combos you can use with him. That or a full Pan's Veil team, which is what I'm actually going to be showing in a moment. Silent One used to be by far the best troop in the entire game, but unfortunately has been nerfed into oblivion, or at least currently in pretty much all versions of the game. I'm pretty sure consoles it's still absolutely horrible too. Trait-wise, it is not that good. That was the first thing that made it fall off. It silences enemies whenever it does skull damage, which is really redundant to the fact that its ability also does the exact same thing. It silences all enemies as well as himself. He used to not silence himself, but that used to be too overpowered, so now he silences himself. Silence also used to drain mana, and it no longer does that anymore as well. So they haven't really rebalanced them since a couple of the nerfs, like the nerf to silence and stuff. They might eventually revisit them. I'm surprised they didn't touch on the Silent One at all during this patch. Maybe like reduce his mana cost to something like 14, or just change his ability to 3 times skull damage to silenced enemies. But as it currently stands, not too good of a troop. You can use it with something like a Valkyrie or something that can feed it mana and just get a good disabling silence off on the enemy team. But one of the main reasons why the Silent One isn't too good anymore is it doesn't really help progress the battle at all. It's just going to help disable the enemy some, and with how prevalent skull damage is and stuff like that, you really don't ever need to use a Silent One. One good thing though, if you do get the Silent One early on as a drop, is it is really good early on in the game, just because of how powerful a full silence is, since that will pretty much disable all damage potential if you can put a good tank up front with like Stone Skin or something of the like as far as traits. And of course, since his ability does not scale off of magic at all, even if it's at a very low level, not ascended, it'll still be just as effective. And of course the War Goat, which we already went over. So let's go into the teams now. We will be doing 2, both of which I believe are more towards early game. Yes, we're going to be doing an All Pan's Veil, and then something extremely early game with the War Goat, which is just an all beast team, using some of the recent drops, or event troops, I should say. So let's get into this one. A double mana core Lady Honorio Queen Mab, definitely an odd team. But we will be able to utilize Faunessa and Blade Dancer quite a bit with it. Actually, we'll be able to utilize pretty much every single thing on this team, except, oddly enough, we won't be able to utilize the new event troop, because if it hits either of those with its ability, it's not actually going to silence them out, because it's restricted by the Impervious. So right off the bat here, we will be able to get those nice, huge green right there. Quite a bit of mana right here. We do not use blue on this team, but it won't exactly matter because we can just convert it out with Sylvasi. So we technically use every single color, even though we aren't. So also, Sylvasi, if you have the second trait, it will be dodging with the stealth, anything that it tries to target at it. So we can easily just keep its mana and not have to worry about it getting drained by the mana cores. So right here, let's see. Let's go hope for a yellow surge. There we go. We got it. It's probably just going to be redrained, though. Yep. It's going to target right back at it. Yep. Well, let's try this again. Oh, we didn't surge that time. Yeah, I definitely want to get at least one Blade Dancer off. You normally want to do that before you do any substantial damage to the enemy. Whenever you're using a Blade Dancer team, just to be able to fully utilize his 2-to-1 ratio that he has. Before I do that, though, we are going to take these skulls, as that is much better value right here. Let me just double check board. Yeah, there's nothing else in the way. So now we'll get our Blade Dance off. We'll then use our other ability. We do not want to use that in reverse order, even though there's a little bit of a threat. The chance that we'll hit it, of course, is only about 50%. Actually, I think you can even hit the same one twice, so maybe it might be lower than that. But it wouldn't have been worth it to try to silence it out with the ability. Better off just playing it safe, use the Blade Dancer, and now that we have the attack or the armor reduced, we can just use this. Hopefully silence them by not hitting the mana core. We do hit one mana core. Of course, it has Impervious, so it doesn't actually take the silence, but the Queen Mab does get silenced. She can't use any of her mana right now. So let's use the ability, take out the mana cores. It has fairly high attack because of its own buffing, so we're going to be able to easily take that out. Let's see. I'm actually going to ignore that, take the reds right here, try to get a Savasti cast. The main reason being it's about to make a bunch of blue on the board, so I want to make sure whenever it does that, we're going to be able to counter it. Doesn't matter too much if we let it take skulls, as we are tanky enough that it won't really matter too much. It also has the 20% chance if you have it traded to dodge skulls, which will help quite a bit in doing so. I could hope here for a green surge, and I think I'm going to gamble. If we get green surge, we get both of them up. If we don't, then nope. Nope. That would have been exactly enough mana too if we would have gone green surge. Unfortunately, we did not. We could have played it safe and taken the red, which would have gave us Savasti, but I didn't do that. And that was a slight mistake, as that would have been nice to have to be able to convert out all these blues. It does have a 3-to-1 ratio on those blues as well. That should probably be raised to a 2-to-1 ratio. Savasti hasn't actually been touched since he was added to the game back in like the second month or the first month this game was ever released. So they might want to rebalance that eventually. So let's see. Right here. Looks like we can get this pretty clean. I'm going to not hit it on the mana core. Normally, you probably would want to hit it on your first one. The main reason I'm doing this is, of course, we are using Faunessa. So I do want to make sure whenever he keeps gaining more and more attack that we can use our ability just to utilize as much damage to him as possible. So right here, we can actually we won't get it up with a purple surge. It did stun our magic link, which we won't be able to use to get mana. So right here, I'll just take the green. We'll get the mana leak. Might go for a blade dance. As you can see though, as he gets lower and lower attack or lower and lower armor, that's going to be less effective. It starts doing less damage from the 2-to-1 ratio. But luckily, it gave us a huge amount of mana right there. We'll be able to take the skulls, and as long as it doesn't drain it, we will be able to kill it right here. But it does go for the drain, and we will not be able to get mana directly for a little bit. Let's see, we'll take the purple right there. First, we'll be one short because it did stun out our ability to get +1 mana on it. Yellows would do it, and oh wait, never mind. We're blocked by Blade Dancer. And we have no alignment on the blues either to be able to get any purple matches. We could steal some attack. Probably just gonna or actually, you can't even target that if I wanted to. There's only one disadvantage of it. Now I can't use the mana cores to distract or I can't use my full mana to distract the mana core because it has stealthy, so it can never. Come on! Why would you hit the Faunessa, not the Blade Dancer? It has more mana. Hey, you confused me. Oh well, we'll take purple. I want to get that mana so we can kill it. Those skulls would do it too if it would ever. Oh, if it would ever let us get it. Look at that agile. 55 attack would have killed it, but the agile does save it right there. Now we can take yellows now that we're not blocking it with our Blade Dancer anymore. No skulls that we can take, so we can finally kill that out with 55 damage. Of course, we only need 29. We keep getting more and more HP on that. Oh, I could have actually taken those skulls, and I did not see it. Blade Dance isn't going to be able to do too much for us right now. It would actually be somewhat good if our Blade Dancer could die, mostly because our Savasti is doing a lot more damage than he is currently capable of doing. But at least right here, since there's only 2 troops left, I think I actually misspoke on that earlier. If I'm not mistaken, it actually does split. Unless there's only 1 troop left, I believe it always splits on at least 2 troops. So like right here, it should silence both of them. And there it goes with the double. So now all we really need to do, let's see, we can't get off a convert. I'll probably have to hold it because of that. So we'll just take a bunch of mana from right there. Aww, that would have been so good if those purples weren't all right there. Agile doing work, even though we didn't really need it. Yeah, I guess we'll just take that. Try getting more mana up. Blade Dancer might just have to actually kill it. I don't think that's going to be enough split damage though, so we are going to have to get up a... yeah, we'll definitely have to get up a Faunessa just to make sure we don't accidentally not kill them. whenever you have a split damage like that, you do want to make sure you use your single target first and then use the split damage. Otherwise, you are not going to actually get a kill. Because if we use this right now to split damage first, there's a good possibility that both of them will survive with a little sliver of HP. So you want to use your single target first like that, and then use your split damage to make sure they both die. If we did that in reverse order, there is a good possibility that one of them would have survived, which means we would have to waste our single target on one of them or the skull on one of them, and it would have taken even longer. So let's go into the other team. I might actually have to take the 2 trophy for it, depending on what we are up against, as these are more towards earlier game troops that we are going to be using right here. Or we could gamble. No, I'm not gambling against that team. Though I think every single one of these teams could actually kill us. Hey, we could go against the level 33. No, that would be absolute slaughter. That would be the most slaughter ever. We can like one-shot his entire team. Let's just repick once though. Repick button, you better work. Sometimes it's been freezing. That is even worse. But I am gonna do it because we get to use the power of our war goat to move the Gorgotha out of the way. So we might actually be able to win with it. Luckily, we do have Werewolf. Werewolf is going to be a huge tank for us since he can just keep converting back and forth. One bad thing about the Werewolf, though, is we are using 3 beast spawns there, and there. And whenever the Werewolf converts out, it will not keep the beast spawned. It'll keep the bonuses from being a beast, the beast general, the +4 life and 2 attack. But it will not keep the 6 life that we have from having 3 beast spawns, which is somewhat unfortunate, but at least the other 3 will keep it, so that'll be useful. We're actually using the same banner again, the yellow green, which is the banner for Pan's Veil, so let's get into this. Of course, this is actually using all of the most recent beasts that have been introduced to the PC and mobile version of the game, as well as Saber-Tooth Tiger, who we will be using as mainly for cleanup on all of these, all of the damage right here. So we'll take rounds, start getting up our Werewolf. I don't want to use it too early though. I do want to let it die some. The main thing I want to get up is our actually completely forgot what's called our War Goat, so we can actually get off our the Gorgotha out of the way, so we don't have to deal with it when taking skulls and other things. So we'll take yellow right there. Make sure Gorgotha doesn't start getting up his ability, which it looks like he's going to do regardless. Skulls, I am pretty much just going to ignore, since we can just convert out, and that will fix any skull problem that we have. I'm taking the yellow here instead of red because we will be needing as many reds as possible on the board whenever we cast our lava lizard, or fire lizard I mean, just to make sure he has the highest chance possible of being able to get an extra turn from his cast. And good, we got a burn on Valkyrie. As long as that hits anything other than Gorgotha, that'll be a good cast on the enemy there, right there. So we do get the green surge right there, thanks to the Pan's Veil banner for that +1, giving us the full mana. We do have a row destroy right here, which gives us quite a bit of functionality in what we can do board control wise. I'm probably going to take it to use this blue. We're also going to be knocking back the Gorgotha, making sure we don't have to deal with his granite skin. We can save him for last, just keep him all the way in the back right there and just kind of ignore him until he explodes, but that won't be too much. If we could somehow get our how do I armored War Goat back up, we could actually take that right there, though we do not. So I think I might just, let's see, I'll do this because we'll be able to get the convert. He doesn't have that much damage, but I think I'll still do it. He ruined our extra turn, so I'm going to take skulls now that we were able to remove the Gorgotha back with the, I got this. It's War Goat. Yes. It's War Goat. Okay. With the War Goat. I don't know. If I'm sounding weird right now, it's probably because it's so late at night. Let me see. I don't know if this will come up if I do it. It says it is 1 a.m. It just literally turned 1 a.m. I have no clue if you guys can see this right now. I forget if Steam Overlay actually shows while I'm on OBS, but 1 a.m. Literally just turned as I went there. So that is that. But we just got the burn and the hit off on the Valkyrie right there. Very useful. And the board is set up perfectly for that nice convert. We'll use the damage on Queen Mab, as she is the most dangerous damage source on the enemy team right now. And we can kind of just target them out one by one at this point. Ideally, we would want to take yellows right here, but we only have the option of red, so I am going to have to remove some of the reds we need. Not too big a deal, though. We'll be able to use our Sabertooth Lion to do the cleanup. We'll want to clean up with it, since it'll gain extra magic for doing so. A large 5 extra magic, too, at that, which is quite a large bonus. Quite a few reds on the board, so we'll be able to do some pretty decent work with the Fire Lizard. Given this team's actually doing not that bad, surprisingly. A lot better than I was expecting it to. We do have our War Goat up, but until the hero actually dies, I do not want to use that, as we will have to deal with Gorgotha again. So we'll just cast this again, hopefully get an extra turn. Of course, similar to Rockworm, it does have, the Fire Lizard does have a bit of ability to be able to loop off of itself. One problem, of course, that the Rockworm doesn't have, though, is it does have an 11 mana cost instead of 8, making it slightly harder to keep looping off itself than that of the Rockworm. So he's going to get his explosion off. It's probably going to, give his hero the ability. Nothing too big to worry about, though. We could use the switch and get a lot of purple mana right there. Unfortunately, we do not have the werewolf to actually use that purple mana. So I'm probably just going to take some standard skulls right there. Let the burn tick it down. Hopefully one more skull or so we'll be able to take that down. We'll take purple right there, mainly just to get the yellow, just so we can use our next cast. And we actually get some blues. I wasn't expecting that. Luckily the War and Peace, now that we moved the Gorgotha all the way to the back, is actually blocking the Gorgotha's brown, so we don't even really need to worry about anything really that much. So right there, we get off the extra turn, and on the hero, which is perfect. We'll be able to clean that up with the Saber-Tooth Tiger, and then that will just leave the Gorgotha. So, I forgot already. The War Goat was actually worked pretty good in this team. We were able to isolate the Gorgotha, and we turned it from being a really good front tank to pretty much a useless troop all the way in the back of his team. So that actually ended up working very, very well in this battle. Now all we have to do is just kill it, and that will be that. Easier said than done. Let's get that, because we can't actually burn it because it is a Gorgotha after all, and our skulls do almost nothing. The only problem now is we do not have any form of good damage source to really kill this thing out. Like right there, we can't get the burn. We'll get some damage. Luckily, he doesn't use reds, or this would go on for a while. Luckily, all we really need is a couple good casts, and we'll be able to get it out. I was saving that for an extra turn. Perfect, right there. We'll be able to claim it. And we even get the surge on it. Really, really nice. We'll be able to use that. 37 damage. One more attack from either our Fire Lizard or our Saber-Tooth Lion. And that will wrap this up. I'll beat out some skulls right here. We'll also be able to... Oops, I completely ignored his browns. I mean, purple. But he'll clear out the board. Oh, he might actually kill our thing. No, I was just about to convert it and heal him fully. No. Oh, well, we'll bait out those skulls. All we really have to do at this point is just keep taking blues until we get Saber up, and that is match. So we'll take this browns right there. Ignore everything else. Just take the blue. Come on, surges, where are you? How can we not get surges at the moment like this? Okay, there we go. Perfect. And that is match. Saber-Tooth Lion with the 10 extra magic, 37 damage. Very nice. You better not Demonic Pact. You've got to be kidding me. Well, this Gorgotha, he's trying. He's definitely putting up a fight. He does not want to quit. Luckily, this person does not have their seems to not have their ancient horror fully upgraded, or is not as upgraded as everything else. So even though it got revived or got a summon, it's already dead without much effort at all. And we have the Saber-Tooth Lion at a ridiculously high magic from killing everything, and it could have just one-shot it anyways. So that is the match. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, as always. Also, something I forgot to mention earlier, and it's kind of already too late in the video, but I figured I'd mention it. Hurricane Matthew, of course, went okay. I mentioned everything about it on my Facebook, but obviously, as you can tell, I am not doing the week-long stream this week. I will be doing that next week, starting on October 16th, which is the 2-year anniversary of Gems of War. I'll be mentioning that again at a later time, probably on Friday, Saturday, mentioning it more as it gets closer to the event. But I will be doing a week-long stream that week. Between the connection issues today and the fact that I didn't even get internet until later this morning, I just decided to move it to next week instead of this week. Anyways, that'll wrap it up for this video, and have a wonderful day, or night at this point. Some of you might be day. Anyways, goodbye.